Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Clarice. I am a military spouse. I work in finance and I currently reside in Seattle with my husband, and we just finally finished our wedding. Yay! It's been such a long process and I'm so excited to be done, and even more excited to take you guys on the first part of our wedding series journey. I will be breaking down pretty much every part of our wedding, from planning, choosing vendors, the vlog for the weeks before, and so many other things like decor and design. There's a lot of things I did. There's a lot of things I hired vendors to do. The purpose of today's video is to go through my vendors, and I'm not going to be talking about the specific ones I hired. If you are interested, if you are a San Diego bride, check out my Instagram. I think that is a great place for you to find out which exact vendors I had hired. They are tagged in almost everything. So that's a great place to start if you want to figure out who I used. Instead, I'm just going to be talking about vendors that I chose to have for my wedding. So things like a planning team, a designing team, decorations, cake, and so forth. So before I get started, Dad, what do you say to the vlog?
Mom, say, don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button.
So today I want to take you guys through the vendors I hired. I am going to spill all the tea on the repeats and regrets I have when it comes to wedding vendors. So the first vendor I'm going to talk about that was so key to my wedding and executing it from start to finish is my planning team. If I were to redo this whole process, I probably would have started out with a planner before I picked a venue. And initially, when I went into wedding planning, I had a very small budget in mind. I wanted something really simple. Actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't even want a wedding. When I first met Wyatt, I told him it was just something I wasn't interested in. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot to think about. And pair that with my personality of being highly detailed and being a bit of a perfectionist, I just thought that wasn't a good match. But here we are a year later with a wedding that was done. And so yeah, the first thing I probably would have done was thought about my planner first. That was probably the fourth vendor I hired in my process. And the reason why I would go with a planner first, especially for somebody who's having a wedding similar to mine, is because there are so many things that go into planning a wedding that they could assist you with and help you make decisions with in the beginning. So the moment I hired Kelsey, things just got significantly better. Would I hire this vendor again? Absolutely. This was probably the second vendor I hired when I started this whole process. Photos are the one thing for your wedding that lasts forever, and and by forever I mean like it gets passed down through the generations. It's a legacy thing. And so I hired what I consider is the best photographer in the San Diego metro area. I don't even think she's in San Diego proper, but would I hire this vendor again? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it, would hire her again. I've already recommended her to one other friend who's planning her wedding in San Diego. Photographer is like, I mean, you can't not hire a photographer for your wedding, right? So absolute repeat. All right, this next vendor was a non-negotiable and probably was, okay, so I lied. I think I said Carrie was the second vendor. She had to be the third because having a band at my wedding was probably the number one priority when it came to planning a wedding. I love bands at weddings. I love the interaction and the energy, especially when you have a good band. I mean, it just, oh my gosh, it just changes the whole experience. Repeat or regret, obviously a repeat. I loved our band and they just brought the energy. I mean, for granted, part of it has to do with your guests, you know, and their energy too, that, you know, it goes back and forth between the two. But this is 100% a repeat. Like, no doubt about it. If I were to redo the wedding day, it would be a band over and over and over again. So our next vendors were all of our musicians for the day. So we did have ceremony musicians and we had cocktail hour musicians. So we were very, very fortunate enough to be able to have live musicians the whole day. And if I could repeat this again, of course I would. Live music is so amazing. Is it necessary though? No, it's not necessary. It's something I personally would choose to repeat, but is not something that's necessary. Our church ceremony musicians were not only just vocalists, but we had a violinist, a cellist, and a pianist. Live music is just incredible. And it just, the sound of it is just so unique. I don't know. I love it. And then for cocktail hour, we had a saxophone duo, which was super cool. It's my uncle. He ended up playing for our wedding. He is so good. I've heard him at so many events. So I knew, like, before I even, you know, got engaged, I was like, my Uncle Blas is going to play at my wedding no matter what, because he's just so stinking talented. But of course I would repeat that one. He's my family member. So yeah, if you can have live musicians, I will say it creates such a magical experience for your wedding day. Repeat. Okay, a lot of people, I think this is no longer a thing anymore, but it definitely was, I think, maybe in the early 2010s, I don't know. But a lot of people, when it came to staying within budget for their weddings, would skip out on videographers. And I have a YouTube channel. There was no way I was going to skip out on a videographer. And it was a consideration at one point in the wedding planning process when in the beginning, Wyatt and I started with an itty bitty budget. And as things kept going and I kept planning, I was like, I couldn't cut a single thing. It was really hard. There were tough decisions to make. So videography is an absolute repeat. I haven't really seen a lot. I know they tagged me in one video on Instagram. So if you want to see that, that's on Instagram. But I am so looking forward to video content. A lot of people used to say, like, why hire a videographer? You're going to watch a video once and never watch it again. I also had some content creators for my wedding, and they were able to turn around my content really quickly. And I watched the video every day after once it was made, every day after it was made, since then. So that says a lot about video content. I watch it over and over again. It's a reminder of my hard work. Like, my wedding day went so fast. So to have content, especially video, to rewatch and relive through the blur of a day was so helpful. Repeat videographer for sure. All right, next caterer that you cannot skip out on. I know some venues come with it, like as part of your package, and some don't. The venue that we picked was basically an event site. It wasn't like a hotel where everything comes in the package or whatever. We got to pick all of our vendors from, I don't know, A through Z. We hired a caterer and a separate bartender who both did phenomenal. I've had this catering company before. Again, follow them on Instagram. But I've had this catering company before through work events, and actually one of the bigger reasons why I lean towards them is because my best friend, who's a foodie, who you'll see all over my vlogs, she loved this catering company and actually really wanted to hire them for hers. I think I found that this caterer probably fit our needs more. So yeah, definitely a repeat. I mean, you can't not hire a caterer for your wedding, or at least provide food, but yeah, I would definitely repeat this caterer again. This is one I think people tend to change or skip. No, I don't think people really skip out on it, but having a dessert course, and I'm gonna call it dessert course. We didn't do a dessert course. Well, I guess technically we did. We got a cake, and so FYI, I wanted to lean more into the traditional style of a wedding. I'm that girl that grew up wanting to be a princess since, you know, she was 3. And so I've always known I wanted, like, if I was gonna have a wedding, I wanted it to be very traditional. So we did go with a cake that was fairly large. It was, I think, supposed to feed 150 people. I don't know if it actually, I don't know how it went out, honestly. Like, other than cutting it, like, I don't know. I did, you know what, I did see people sitting down to eat cake. So I do know that people help themselves to the cake. But it's something I definitely would repeat again. When it came to cakes, Wyatt and I had tried, I think, 3 different shops in San Diego, and there was a clear winner when it came to taste. So we ordered this cute little figurine from Etsy of our dog, and we put it on the cake, and it was the cutest thing ever, and it looked like she was eating it. So cake is something I would repeat. A lot of people choose to do things like dessert bars or a dessert table. So while I would repeat a cake, I think including dessert on your wedding day is a nice little treat for your guests. And also, don't forget about coffee and tea. Surprisingly, we had a lot of people that wanted that, and luckily we had a coffee station. So yeah, repeat. So this one is something I would repeat for sure, given the circumstances of our wedding and our schedule of events. I will say transportation is so key. If you have a wedding where the guest accommodations might be very far from where the reception or ceremony venue is, it's something that's also nice to have if you do have a church ceremony that is quite a distance from where the reception venue is. So I think it's really nice when people travel from far and they have to book a hotel. The least you could do for them, if your budget accommodates it, is provide them with transportation. It makes things a lot easier, especially if people are drinking, and also that way you're not kind of responsible or part of the reason why people drink and drive. You know, we want to avoid that. We want to keep the roads safe. And I loved our wedding transportation service. So it was something that was not necessary because everything we did was in La Jolla. Where we were staying in our hotel, Wyatt's Airbnb, our church, and our reception venue, and even our welcome party were all walking distance. I think the longest you had to walk was maybe 10 minutes from one place to the other. But something my mom wanted to provide for our guests, especially for our ladies who are in heels, was transportation from the ceremony to the reception. And I think this kind of was nice too. And I don't know how many of our guests actually took advantage of using the transportation, but I think it was nice to provide because, believe it or not, it rained on our wedding day in San Diego, where it literally never rains. Having the transportation at the end of all of that, when, you know, all the mist was ruining everyone's hair, was kind of nice. Again, not necessary. Our guests could have walked from our church to our reception venue. Would have, according to Google Maps, it's a 7-minute walk. Not a big deal. In heels, I beg to differ in heels, but yeah, we went ahead and provided a wedding trolley, which was so cute. And then Wyatt and I had a Rolls Royce, which I actually used pre-ceremony with my parents, and it was so picturesque and is something like I definitely would repeat both for sure. Even if we didn't need it, you know, if you can accommodate it, why not repeat it? All right, this one I loved, and this was one of the vendors I hired, I think closer towards the end, and I definitely would repeat it. Our 360 photo booth. I know a lot of our guests enjoyed it, and at the end of everything, we ended up getting everyone's videos, and I want to try to create a compilation of it, but I don't know, we'll see. Everyone wanted to try the 360 photo booth. I mean, I had a lot of friends doing some funny things. Like we had a couple that was pretending to fight in slow-mo, and it was so fun. It was probably like one of my favorite ones. I had a lot of couples that were kissing too, which is so cute. I wish Wyatt and I had the opportunity to get a 360 of us kissing, but there's definitely a lot of entertainment at our wedding. It's something I definitely would repeat. This is a big one and was originally where I was cutting most of the costs when it came to planning the wedding, but our furniture and tableware, decor, and linens. So I did pin all the Pinterest things in the beginning and I loved all of them. But again, I was trying to work with a small budget in the beginning. And so initially I told my planner, we're just gonna use the basic linens. And you know, I knew I was gonna go all out on florals. So I was like, we're gonna use basic plates, basic napkins. I think we had the option of choosing different colors, and initially I went into it like that, but then as time, you know, I started attending other weddings and just seeing like what I really wanted for my wedding day. I changed my mind probably 2 months before the wedding, and I literally came up with all new renderings. My poor planner had to go in and make so many changes right before the wedding because I changed my mind. The full gallery isn't out yet, but there's some sneak peeks on Instagram. Like I have a wedding highlight reel already, so you'll have to check that out. That's where a lot of it is. But yeah, I absolutely repeat. Next vendor is Florist, and I love flowers, so absolutely repeat, especially the vendor that I had for my wedding. She was just an absolute doll and so sweet, and it made me sad that I didn't even meet her until the end because, like I said, my planner took care of all the design vendors. But oh my gosh, my flowers were so incredibly beautiful, and to the point where I've had guests at my wedding that had been to our venue for like charity luncheons and stuff, and they were blown away at how we transformed the venue. Our florist was just phenomenal, and it's definitely would absolutely repeat, and specifically this vendor too. She just did amazing and was just the sweetest to work with. Hair and makeup. Okay, so next vendors I was initially not going to hire because I feel like I do a pretty decent job at hair and makeup, but absolutely repeat hair and makeup. I think there's something that's really nice about being pampered on your day of. It helps you relax. You're gonna be stressed out as a bride. Well, maybe, okay, depends on your personality. But for me, like there was no way I was gonna relax on the wedding day. There was just a million things going on. A lot of things like I felt like I needed to be on stage for. It's a performer in me. And so being pampered first thing in the morning was really amazing. Plus my hair and makeup artists were both like, maybe I'm just a little biased, but I think I hired the best people in San Diego. They're phenomenal. They did such a good job. And my mom and my sisters also got their hair and makeup done, as did my mother-in-law. She got her hair done, and everyone just looks so beautiful, and like they're just so stinking talented. Yeah, absolutely repeat for me if I had to do it again. Okay, no, I was about to say this might be my only regret because I think back to how stressed out I was, but honestly, if I had to do everything again, I would repeat it. So I hired myself as my stationery creator. That's right, you heard it. I am in the process of trying to start my own stationery business. I did all my own stationery, literally like everything. I don't think there's a single vendor I hired for any of those, like that design aspect of it. I did make my own invitations. Everyone thought I had hired some really fantastic vendor, and I did hire me. I'm just kidding. But it was something I actually truthfully really enjoyed. I did all my calligraphy. I will share that one in a decor and like day of stationery video. And the only reason I would say I regret this for my own wedding is because it added a lot of work that honestly, like if I had hired a vendor, this would have cut down maybe like 33% of 1/3 of my workload for the wedding. So like I said, working a full-time job, planning a wedding, and taking on a lot of DIY projects, it's a big burden. So it's the one thing I am going to lean a little bit more towards regret. And if I had to do it again, would I? Yeah, because I love it, honestly, and I love the way everything came out. I mean, there were so many like just beautiful details that I think for, at least, maybe for my guests it didn't make a difference, but for me, I was just so satisfied as a bride. And last but not least, and these were the vendors I booked first, were my reception and ceremony venues. So we knew when we got engaged, like, we wanted the wedding to be in La Jolla, and because of that, it really narrowed our venue list. And while like I could have picked a church that was outside of La Jolla at that time, I wanted to be mindful of people commuting from ceremony to reception, or even getting from the airport to whatever. And one of my biggest, I guess, pet peeves when it comes to like going to out-of-town weddings is I like things to be convenient. That was something I think White and I were keeping in mind, was we wanted things to be, we wanted people to have the option to walk to things, or if they had to take Ubers, that it was close by. We were trying to eliminate people from renting cars. We also had a lot of guests that came from like LA and San Francisco that drove, so there was still a lot of issues with like parking, because parking in La Jolla is not very easy. We did put the information on our website, but anyway, that when it came to venue selection, I think we were really limited with our options. Also, something to be mindful of, at least in La Jolla and in Coronado, I know, and I don't know where else in San Diego this might apply, but there's this thing called a noise ordinance that the city implements. And so basically, if there's loud noise after the hours of 10 p.m., you can get fined for it. So with that in mind, like I said, band was a non-negotiable, and because of that, it was very hard to find a venue in La Jolla that had both indoor and outdoor capabilities that can accommodate a band. One of my favorite venues there that's absolutely gorgeous is the Darlington House, and we were very interested in it, and it says on their website you cannot have a live band for your reception, so they got cut off the list. And then also just availability, like the La Valencia Hotel was already, I mean, they book out 2 years in advance. And I think our only option was to do like a Sunday wedding or a Friday wedding, and in like November or something. And I was like, you know what, no, if I can have a Saturday wedding in September and there's availability elsewhere in La Jolla, we're gonna do that. That meets our needs. And La Jolla Women's Club, like, it's not only really beautiful, but you get indoor and outdoor, like, parts for your wedding. Like, we had our cocktail hour outdoors. That's where we set up our bar. That's where we set up like food stations for appetizers. And then we had our reception indoors in the ballroom. And I love that we got the best of both worlds. So that's kind of how we chose La Jolla Women's Club. As far as the church, I mean, we knew we were going to have a Catholic ceremony. I grew up Catholic. And Mary Star of the Sea is this beautiful, like, quaint, it almost reminds me of like an Italian European church, and I love that feel. It's very intimate. And again, it was in La Jolla. I mean, it was so easy to get to everything. We didn't have to waste time commuting. So location was really important for us when it came to venues that we were choosing, including our welcome drinks. I would repeat both our reception venue and our ceremony venue. They really did come together so beautifully. All right, guys, that wraps up another video in the wedding series on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you are a bride, or think you're going to be a bride soon, or love to talk about all things weddings, leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear some vendors you're considering, some fun ideas you have. Let's share and help each other out in the wedding planning community. Make sure to stay tuned for more wedding videos in my series. I'll be talking about the planning process I went through, my decorations, my designs. I will talk about all the Day of Stationery and the company I'm planning on launching soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe and notification button. That way you guys can get notices about when I upload videos related to this series. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to putting more out there for you guys. All right, have a good one.